The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Mike Mjolnir Evans. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
There we go.
All right. I'm excited. I'm excited about this episode.
Yes, more so for the second movie than the first one.
Yeah. So welcome. We're gentlemen. We're approaching 50.
I'm already over 50, but that's just
You're approaching.
We are all collectively approaching 50.
That's pretty impressive. I'm going to say right now, gentlemen, kudos to TMI.
Thank you all out there who have stuck with us for all these. Yes. I think this is episode 47, if I'm not mistaken.
47.
We're putting
I remember
tape.
that. 47
Labor of love,
uninterrupted every week on the week. Right, we're like a well-oiled clock here.
Yeah, and again, welcome to any new listeners.
Yes.
If you would like to, just right up front, if you would like to comment on anything we say or put in your 2 cents or give us a suggestion for something to talk about, our email is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, and as we mentioned last week, we now have a website.
Yes, you did such a great job of announcing that, Jim. Could you tell us what that is again?
I actually don't remember.
And just like that, our promo falls apart. TMI Confessionals Podcast.com. And you can get access to all of our episodes. You can get access to the Facebook page, to the Instagram page. And as soon as I can figure out the chat room feature, you'll be able to leave a comment.
Presence is there on the World Wide Web.
We do have a presence. Yep. It is one-stop shopping. So
paltry though it may be, we do have a presence, all you people.
That's all it takes. Listen, we can build from there.
So what do we got today? We are talking Alita, Battle Angel. Just don't call her Attila. She does not like that. And along with Alita, and we'll let you in a little bit later on what the correlation is between these features. We're also talking Escape from New York, the 1981 classic.
Yeah. Do you know that there's a, Mike, are you aware that there is a Big Trouble in Little China / Escape from New York crossover comic book?
No, I am not.
I've seen a couple little screen grabs of the pages, and it looks like they're doubling down on their Kurt Russell and
Jack Burton meets
Snake Plissken. From what I understand, it looks like the first issue is pretty fun.
I'll keep my eye out for it.
There you go.
So as always, we like to start out the program with a little bit of news, and me with one finger in one ear, just in case I get a spoiler from Jeff here. But
we're not going spoilers. There's no spoilers. I try to keep away from spoilers.
I know you do. I'm just So what do you got?
Right. News it is. Well, I feel like we've beaten this with a dead horse. Well, it's a turnip.
A small dead horse. So even all three of us could only lift a small dead horse.
Just a little Winnie. It's official. Marvel, Netflix, they're all gone. Punisher and Jessica Jones have been canceled.
No surprise. No surprise. But
here is the surprise, because we've continually speculated that this is all going over to Marvel Disney's Plus subscription service. It is not. I guess these shows are just way too dark for that platform. And from what I understand, they could very well be resurrected on either Hulu or FX.
I did hear Hulu.
Really?
Which I think Disney owns, or is somehow got fingers tied. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
They're a stakeholder in it, I think. Yeah.
Is that what stakeholder? Yeah. So there's something going on there, but it will not be. We were speculating that this was all some Machiavellian plan to bring them all over onto their Disney platform, but that's not going to happen. So yeah, catch up on your Punisher now, because he's going bye-bye.
But that's very confusing news, because does Disney Plus not want to be affiliated with anything dark? You know,
That's my understanding. Yeah, that they're a family friendly platform.
Completely family friendly.
Yeah, I can go to Netflix and watch a G-rated show, and I can also watch it.
Yeah.
You know, Netflix has the ability where, depending on who it is, your user.
Exactly.
They cater.
My son has his own account on Netflix.
Right. Yeah. My kids love that feature. So I don't know. We'll see. So going down the Marvel road, we're also going to talk about Captain Marvel, which is launching in 2 weeks? This thing is coming out.
Yeah, only 2 weeks.
Well, apparently Brie Larson kind of upset some white nerdy guys when she went on record and stated that she thought that the press corps that was following and reviewing this stuff a little too white, so she asked for a little more diversity, and the angry white dudes got mad and immediately started going online to Rotten Tomatoes and bashing this movie before it's even being released. People need to get a hold of themselves.
They do.
Yeah. What's the point of this?
Well, right, exactly. You know, it's like you're trying to create a backlash because, you know, she's asking, well, I'm not even going to watch this movie because Brie Larson says it's not for me. I'm going to start a campaign for the poor white guys out there.
And I can just picture comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Exactly. Well, that's what it is. These guys who,
like Brie Larson.
Yes, indeed. So but it is getting some advanced screenings, and from what I've heard, it's damn good reviews.
Of course. I would be shocked at a Marvel movie that is not
So
good.
angry white guys be damned. Screw you. This movie is for me, and I'm going to go see it. Angry white guys.
And I'd just like to give a shout out to everybody so far that's responded to last week's confessional question that we've put on our Facebook page.
Yes, we actually got
we've gotten some suggestions for that movie that you love that nobody else has ever heard of.
There was at least one that I had never heard of. Something Emerald Forest.
The Emerald Forest.
Clue what that is. I'm going to have to look it up. I did respond.
We've got Windwalker, which we believe is a Nicolas Cage movie. I think you're right about that, Jeff. Death to Smoochie made it on the list.
Which I remember seeing that maybe once, and I remember it being incredibly dark. That was Jon Stewart. Did he write that or direct it?
I think he may have. He is involved in some way.
He is involved. What?
And then we also had Stardust, which is the Michelle Pfeiffer De Niro fantasy flick from 2007.
That is a great, great movie. I remember being blown away when I saw that.
You see, I've never seen it. So, yeah, I love it when one of our confessionals causes this outpouring of opinions. So that's the way it should be.
This other news item, Jim, is right up your alley. James Bond number 25 title has been revealed. Do you know?
I do not know this. What is it?
You do not know?
No.
I'm surprised. It was just, I guess this is Daniel Craig's last hurrah, or supposedly, unless he gets a new contract. But it is being called Shatterhand.
Shatterhand.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that at all. But from what I understand, it will close out the Casino Royale storyline established 4 movies ago. Okay. So it'll bring everything full circle.
Is that the working title?
That's what I'm being told is the actual title.
Wow.
Shatterhand is the official, as far as I can tell. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's indicative of the bad guy. I mean, they're digging pretty deep. Quantum of Solace was like, somebody broke out a thesaurus for that. I would think at this point that they've mined all of his works. But
probably, yeah. They're probably going through with a magnifying glass.
Correct, right.
Paragraph to see if they could get a title out of one of his.
They're in his home in Jamaica right now going through his lost books.
Yeah, no, the next James Bond book will be the Audubon Bird Guide. Kudos to you if you get that joke.
Nice. And the only other news item I have, which is tonight, for anybody who does not know, we actually record on Sunday, and tonight is the Oscars, the Academy Award.
So yes, by the time this airs, you'll know who won Best Picture, but as of now, we do not.
So does anybody want to take a stab at who they think is going to get Best Picture? Do we know who our nominees are?
Well, of course, we've got Black Panther. We know that. That's near and dear to all here on the show.
Yep. Black Panther.
We've got Black Klansman.
Yep. Let's go right down the color list.
Star is Born.
You got that? Oh, there's no color in there.
The Wife. Is that Best Picture?
No. You have The Favorite.
The Favorite.
I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry to say. Here we are doing a movie podcast, and I don't know what that is.
That's one of those let them eat cake type Frau movies. That's all I know about.
Okay, Green Book. Green Book is another
Green
one.
Book, another color in the title.
Bohemian Rhapsody, which we have.
Bohemian Rhapsody, lots of bees in the best picture. Roma on Netflix, easily available, but I have not watched it as of yet.
I have not watched it either. And Vice, which I am dying to see. So those are your 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because the Academy changed it a couple.
I have seen 4 of those nominated.
I have seen 2. Mike?
I've seen 1.
2, Wait, Mike, 2.
You haven't seen Black Panther?
No, I've seen it. What
Bohemian
else?
You didn't watch Bohemian Rhapsody? We reviewed it.
Yes, I've seen 2.
Mike, you're ahead of the game. Come on.
So any speculation? My guess right here is that Black Panther while it's cool that it's nominated, I don't see it win in Best Picture.
Neither do I.
Klansman, you're gonna see probably because again, a lot of this how it plays out during the night. If you start seeing some of these movies getting all the technical awards, then more than likely they're not getting the Best Picture award. Black Klansman, I think you're going to see Spike Lee probably finally get his
Best Director.
Yeah.
That is a very good movie. I saw that recently and loved it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see it being Best Picture?
I would like it to be. When you look at the Golden Globes and some of the other award shows and you see what's winning there, I think that really informs the Oscar voters as well. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm predicting that you're going to see either The Favorite take Best Picture or Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the two. Of the two, I would much rather it be Bohemian Rhapsody, but my personal favorite is probably Black Klansman of what I've seen.
Okay. All right. Mike, any stabs?
I think they kind of want to make it up to Spike Lee, so maybe it is Black Klansman. I agree. I don't think Black Panther is going to do it. Difficult call. We'll have to tune in.
It is. It really is. And like Jim said, a lot of this, when you get down to the previous awards, sometimes gives you an indication. I haven't really been on top of this stuff. I was leaning toward Roma only because that's the one I'm hearing a lot of buzz about. But I guess we'll find out tonight. And then next week we can discuss who came close.
So then let's get into it. This week, our main feature. Alita, Battle Angel. This is based on what? Graphic novel, manga?
It is a manga.
Do we know the background of this?
Gunum, it's a weird name, but
Gunum, yeah.
Yeah, it is a manga, and it's been out there for a while. It's an old book. I think it goes back to
it ran from 1990 to 1995, based on my research.
Okay, 1995. Which seems like yesterday, but it was been a while. I guess back when the post-apocalyptic worlds were still cool.
Now, this is a joint effort between Robert Rodriguez, who is the director, and James Cameron, who has written and produced this. And he's had this on the back burner for several years. 20 years. 20 years. I believe this was going to be his next project after Titanic until Avatar completely took over his world.
He's been talking about this for quite some time. I mentioned this before we started recording that there was some event on the Intrepid, and I remember him specifically mentioning this. And again, back then you only knew what it was because it was a manga. And I guess the technology just wasn't there. But this is really a labor of love for him. And he finally just abandoned it. He just, like you said, Avatar came and he probably took all that technology that he was working on for this and then just became Avatar all the time. He's like, that's it. I'm in the Avatar business. So, of course, that movie was 10 years ago. And we still haven't seen it.
Yeah. And he still is in the Avatar business, apparently, although we haven't seen any fruits of that.
No, and when it does come out, are we going to care? Because I think one of the detractors of this movie is, while it's visually stunning, and I will say the motion capture work is absolutely flawless, it's nothing we haven't seen before. Avatar was a breath of fresh air. Avatar was absolutely visually unlike anything we'd ever seen. Where this movie, I took my wife, which this is the only movie she's seen since Avatar, in a theater.
I still cannot believe that. I cannot believe that.
She just does not like the movie experience, and I threw it out there. I said, "Would you like to?" I showed her the trailer because she had no clue what I was talking about.
We mean she does not like the theater-going experience, correct?
Yes, correct.
Not literally the only movie she's seen since Avatar.
No.
In the theater.
In the theater. The whole theater experience sitting down. And throughout the movie, she kept leaning over and she's like, that's just like robots. That's like Speed Racer. What's that movie with the that you were watching? I'm like, you shut up.
I'm surprised, Jeff, with every comment, you're not like, well done. Well done. You know, every reference.
Yeah, listen, I was secretly proud of her, but at the same time, shut up. I'm trying to watch the movie. I love you, but so
she forgot her movie etiquette over 10 years.
She really nailed, and it kind of immediately took me out of the movie, and I'm like, oh, she's right. So again, all right, we'll get into it. Let's get into it because the plot line is what it is.
Now, the plot line, unless I was just zoning out throughout this movie, unless you're already familiar with the manga storyline, they leave a lot out of this, I think, because they're planning on sequels. So you've got a lot of plot holes, some questions that are not answered. We've got the character of Dr. Dyson Ito, played by Christoph Waltz, bringing his Germanness, his unique Germanness to this film, as he does every film that he's in.
I cannot watch him in anything without thinking of Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, I know.
That character has become so indelible. And Ito is the only name that I could even remember in this, to be honest with you, because he's like a vacuum
and a distinctly Japanese name as well.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and he's like the only white guy.
So he is kind of a junker. It seems like he lives in, what is the name of the city that they live in?
Iron City, Iron Town. Yeah,
they live under a utopia called Zalem. And
or as I like to refer to it, Elysium.
Zalem's Lot. The denizens of Zalem, who you never see, so you're not really sure who lives up there except for one character.
Why it's so coveted to live there.
They throw their garbage down into Iron City. And so basically under Zalem, it's just a big garbage dump of robot parts and mechanical parts that are being pillaged over and over and over again by people like this Dr. Ito. And he finds half of a cyborg, which is Alita. He finds her head and torso, and he attaches her to a full body and brings her to life.
Her human brain is active.
He's got a human brain, and everything else is robot. And we do know that he's got daughter issues because we have a flashback a little bit later on, and he had a handicapped daughter who was killed by the name of Alita, so he's looking to fill that role.
Yeah, so how creepy is that? So he finds his head and then immediately puts his dead daughter's robotic body on it and then gives her the same name as his daughter. Yeah,
that's a little unhinged at that point.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and this is like just straight up cyber Pinocchio.
This is just a vulture-esque kind of society where everybody's just picking body parts off of each other to sell to people like Vector, who are in the game of Motorball. This is like roller derby for cyborgs. Yeah. And apparently, in order to win, you not only have to cross the finish line, but destroy everybody else in the game as well. So the Motorball champion is promised a spot in Zalem, and nobody gets to Zalem unless you're a rollerball champion. So everybody in Iron City is training to be part of this game in some way, shape, or form.
It seems to be the only
form of entertainment. The only thing going on in this whole community is this rollerball. And we have a character by the name of Vector, who's kind of a headhunter, owner of some kind in Rollerball. And he's employing all these mercenaries to pick apart people's cyborg parts, alive or dead, so he can build more Rollerball players.
Victor, what's your Vector?
And we're not talking Vector from Despicable Me.
Look at you, a little tiny toilet for a little tiny baby to... Ah! Curse you, tiny toilet!
This is an entirely different kind of Vector, played by Mahershala Ali. We all know from Luke Cage, and also nominated this evening in Green Book as well. I doubt he's going to be getting a nomination for this, though.
Yeah. Although, you know who does deserve an award? Jennifer Connelly in Garters. Holy hubba.
As Sheeran. Yes, let's talk about her really quickly.
I actually had to calm myself down because my wife was in the theater, but I'm just like, I'm so making a note of that.
I almost passed out.
Yeah.
Now, that's gonna be it's funny that you guys say this because I think her acting is the most stilted of all in this movie.
And again, once again, you can't see her without immediately thinking Labyrinth, and I'm like, damn, she's
exactly, yeah. Or
that was like what, 87?
Hearing the opening strains of Underground as she's running back home in the rain. But she
Jennifer
plays
Connelly.
Ito's ex-wife and the real Alita's mother. So she's really sort of the new Alita's stepmother.
Stepmom. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
She
Mother to the
immediately-
torso.
But what was weird is that she somehow recognized her, and I'm like, you never met her before.
We have Ed Skrein playing Zapan, who was in Deadpool, the original Deadpool. He was the baddie.
He was Francis?
He was Francis in Deadpool.
Oh, I did not pick up on that.
No.
And that's where I was going back before this. The motion capture stuff is absolutely flawless. These characters are fully realized, and a lot of these cyborgs, it's just like him in particular. It's really just kind of like his face stretched over robotic parts, but they emote, and it just again it was very well done and very nice to look at.
Speaking of unlikely actors in this movie, did we know that Jackie Earl Haley of Bad News Bears fame was Grishka or Grushka?
Grushka. I knew his name going into the movie, and then when the credits rolled, I immediately said, "Wait a minute, who was he?" And then had to look him up and realized.
Welcome to the underworld. From here, there are worlds above worlds above worlds. It's where I used to live.
His character is so vastly different from what he looks like in real life. So the only other name that I really came away with was Jeff Fahey.
Yeah, who was in it for just a split second.
I know, and the minute I saw him, I knew him. But it wasn't, again, until the credits roll, and then I'm like, the guy from Lost, that's Lawnmower Man.
And it just seems like a wasted opportunity for somebody.
Because he was a great character.
I could only think that they're planning on bringing him back a little bit later on.
He was this bounty hunter called McTeague, and he had a pack of dogs. He was like a country wildsman. He had a cowboy hat and a beard, and he had these dogs. Some of them were robotic, some of them looked real. And that was all. There was one little moment where... what's her name? Alita is out in the world. She's 1 day old, and he lets her go wandering around the city.
It's like
You
Pinocchio.
before dark.
No.
Yeah, stay
watch
away
out for
from
the fox.
bad guys trying to sell you drugs and bad cigars. You'll turn into a donkey. Yeah, the bad guy Grushka kills the little dog that she befriends, and I'm like, oh, she's going all John Wick on their asses again. There's so many callbacks to all these other movies in here. I'm sure at one point it was fresh. But it's just been way too long. It's gestated way too long that all this other stuff has been picked up. It's been carried through.
So this is what you're introduced to in the plot line of this movie, is that Dr. Ito finds the body parts of Alita. He puts her together, very Frankenstein, Pinocchio-esque. He becomes her father to kind of guide her through the world as his new daughter. And what we don't realize right away is that she has a past up in Salem. She was a warrior up there, a berserker, as a matter of fact, who was intimate in the ways of Panzerkunst martial arts, whatever.
Bless you, by the way. Bless you. You should probably actually bleep that because that sounds naughty.
It totally does. It does. I felt bad.
I'll never get past
left
the
my
censor.
lips. So we know she has a past. We're only given really slight callbacks to that through flashbacks, so you don't entirely know what she was beforehand.
And she only gets these flashbacks when she's like in full-on battle mode, when she feels threatened or whatever, and all of a sudden...
she feels the answer to her past is up in Salem as well. And in order for her to get up there, she also becomes a motorball competitor. Now, what the funny thing is this game it is not really a game. It's like a death sport on any occasion. Any cyborg in here is really set up to be destroyed unless you win the game. And again, Ito and everybody else rallies around her saying, have a great game, and they're pads and everything. I'm like,
and it was
not
very
something you shove your daughter into,
Yeah, it was right. So on day one, he's like protecting her because he doesn't want her out past dark. Then all of a sudden,
you go in there, you race, you win, you come back right here. You wear all of these pads. Remember, if you wreck this body, I can't fix it.
Yes, I know.
It's like Rob Schneider in The Waterboy.
You can do it!
You can do it. It's convoluted how they even get her back. They trick Vector and Jennifer Connelly's character. Want her, they realize who and what she is, and they get her boyfriend Hugo, who she befriends, to trick him into getting her into the games as a tryout. It's a very convoluted to get her to so that she can be taken out in front of everybody, as opposed to
everybody else in her tryout game is a mercenary out to get her. But again, that is the rules of this motorball. And that's how you play it, period. It doesn't matter if she's in it or not. You're out to be destroyed unless you win this game. So I didn't see how the tryout was any different than a normal game of motorball.
Yeah.
It's Alita battling through these mercenaries, trying to get to Zalem. And we have a character by the name of Nova, who's kind of like an overseer up in Zalem, who speaks through various characters, very Jedi-like. He kind of commands Vector's body at times.
Yeah.
He enters other bodies and speaks through them at different times. There's a big reveal at the end, spoiler alerts, that this Nova is played by Edward Norton.
In such a little like you wouldn't even realize it was him.
So she never makes it up to the city of Zalem at the end. She becomes a motorball champion and points up to the sky saying, "I'm coming for you."
Yeah, she went all Babe Ruth, right? She's
right.
There you go. I'm going to hit that ball over there.
Oh,
Got the black.
And
but
he's looking down on her, and that's where the movie ends. So it's begging for, a continuation. This is not meant to be a one and done.
But that's after 2 hours of buildup. This movie is way unnecessarily long.
It is.
And we skipped over completely the part where she gets her ass handed to her by Grushka. So now I don't know, at one point Hugo and his friends take her out. They give the backstory that 300 years ago, there was this event called the Fall, where these aliens came and took over the world and destroyed everything in Elysium. Oh, I'm sorry. Zalem is the only floating city left, and everyone's kind of living underneath it. But there's a downed spaceship from these creatures that are left over, and she immediately goes in there 300 years later, activates it, and finds this battle body. And then when she gets destroyed, the doctor is forced to use this body on her, and it's got this alien technology that upgrades her, and now she's got full fight capabilities.
This body, it has the power I need. I feel a connection to it. I can't explain. This could be who I am.
But then it's revealed that this is kind of what she was to begin with before it's thrown away.
But 300 years it's just been sitting there. They're scavenging crap left and right. No one broke in there and found this thing, or the power cell is still activated on this ship that she could just walk in there, and that just seemed a little silly to me. But it just went on way too long. And Hugo, spoiler alert, gets killed not once but twice. And I'm just like, we couldn't just kill him once? It should have ended right when he wakes up and he's in this new body. All right, now we got a plan. We need to go up there and we need to take this guy out. In the flashbacks, when she's a warrior and she's with all her other group, there's like these metal blade, I don't even know what you want to call it.
Yeah, another throwback to Labyrinth, which is a very similar.
Yeah, you're right. That comes shooting down and just takes out everything in its way. And of course, he gets chopped to bits. She's hanging on the side for dear life, and he's dangling, and his arm breaks, and he just goes falling. I was in for it the first 2/3 of this movie, and I will say my wife hated the ending. Ruined it for her, to be honest with you. There's a point where they should have just cut it. This should have been 2 movies.
To me, it was just too much like of the CW young adults, young romance aspect going on that kind of really.
I like that though. I like the whole build up her as a character, and for the longest time, like early on, like she didn't really care who she was. So why should we? And why would anybody live underneath this city? It was established that the whole world is like this lush landscape. So what if you're living off the grid? There was no power. You build a little cabin, you got yourself a nice little house.
It's better than getting, metal parts thrown on you.
Well, that's just it. Right? They lived in a junkyard, for lack of a better. But it didn't really even seem like it was that bad of a place to live.
Right.
For a dystopian society, it's like, wow, we're just going to live off that crap that those people are going to throw at us on a daily basis.
It just seemed corny and cheesy to me. I wasn't invested. Like you said, that Jeff, though, the motion capture I thought was great. I was really at a loss when Alita was on screen. Is this a CGI character? Is this an actress doing motion capture? What is this? And then I realized at the end, she's played by Rosa Salazar. And I went out and looked online and I saw some of the behind the scenes stuff. What they do with her is amazing in this movie. Yeah. And it's really a sight to behold. But the story, did not hold my interest.
I think it's 10 years too late. They held out long enough for the technology. But like I said, there's just too many other movies that this seems to just be cribbing from. The ending, just, they're just setting up a sequel, but it's like, oh, so I can tell you right now what the sequel is going to be, is that somehow Nova finds Hugo, turns him into some kind of a warrior, and she's got to fight him. I'm calling it right now.
Now, the big question is whether or not it's going to be Edward Norton, or is he already arguing with Robert Rodriguez over what the sequel is going to be? He's going to argue himself right out the door like he normally does.
I'm going to say right now that I'm based on probably whatever amount, billions that this took to make, and whatever it's making in return, it's not going to be enough to warrant a sequel. That's
because I read somewhere that it has to make $400 million globally to make a profit.
I'm curious how it's doing overseas, because it is based on a foreign market.
Yeah, and it just opened in China, so they're hoping.
Oh, it just opened, because usually that's the other way around. Recently, they've gone the opposite route, which is release it over there first. But like you're right, you can't take your eyes off her. She's absolutely, she's got these big giant doe eyes, and you get used to it pretty quickly. But it is visually, it's flawless.
And what's funny is that if you think about it, that movie about the Keane paintings with the giant eyes also had Christoph Waltz.
He's pigeonholing himself.
Big Eyes. That was the name of the movie, right?
Big Eyes, yeah. Based on that artist. And at one point she realizes that in one of her flashbacks that her code number was 99. Am I the only one who immediately had that Toto song stuck in their head?
Oh, you see, I was thinking Get Smart. Agent 99, Get Smart.
That's what that song is based on, Agent 99.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they wrote that for her.
Yeah. Tell me Toto, all I know is Rosanna. That's it. I'm not.
99. So, yeah, there you go.
What are we going to do? What buckets do we give this?
I think I liked it better than both of you guys. I'd give it 3 buckets on the motion capture, the fight sequences, and the things that I thought were going to annoy me didn't. So the big eyes, the motorball, I'm going to go 3.
It was fun to watch, but the ending ruined it. The ending, it went on way too long. I would go 3.
You see, I'll give it 3 as well, just because it was, it was entertaining. It was done competently. I just didn't think it was a great movie. So
it is. I will say I'm a big fan of Robert Rodriguez, and this is probably one of his better movies in the last couple years.
Yeah, I'll go that far as well.
I mean, my kids grew up with those Spy Kid movies. And he used to do these little, at the end of the video, he would have all of his special effects, he basically did himself in studio. Like he had this little studio in his house. And if your son has ever seen Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
He never has, no. Neither have I.
Okay, well, I will tell you, it was written by his 8-year-old son. But all the special effects, he did himself in-house. So the guy's got the capability. What was the other? Sin City was another one, just very unique in its look. He really captured. I don't know where Cameron begins or ends and Rodriguez begins in this process. Because, again, like you said, Cameron was living with this for 20 plus years. So without digging too deep, I don't know how much of Rodriguez really had to say beyond, action. It is a spectacle to see.
Alita, Battle Angel.
Attila.
So as we go to the concession stand, I just want to share with you guys, I found a very bizarre ad, which I'm going to share with our audience now, for chili dilly pickles. Apparently, This is a thing back in the 50s at the concession stand. Pickle in a sack was this particular snack. And I cannot imagine, a waist level counter. Just be careful that the pickle that you choose is not actually attached to something.
Wow.
Without further ado, here we go. Let's go to the concession stand.
Hi, I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle. Packed in a jar for the freshest flavor. Served cold in a sack for you to savor. So dainty to eat, no muss, no fuss. An ideal snack for all of us. Crisp, tender, and tasty with a bit of spice. Buy one now. Taste how nice. Snack bar clerks will knock themselves silly, speeding your order for a real chili dilly.
Oh my. I can't get that visual out of my head now. Pickle in a sack. Maybe that's what we're having for dinner tonight.
Maybe that is. When
did they decide that was not a good idea? When did they decide that, let's shy away from the pickle?
So it must have been several years before our next film, 1981's Escape from New York.
Escape from New York.
A classic John Carpenter film.
This is I feel like we rented this on VHS every week, but I'm sure that back in the day, I think my uncle probably had a head-to-head VHS, so anything that you rented, he could immediately copy. Because I know this movie inside and out.
So he had the double VHS.
Yeah, that was like the cool uncle back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, whoever had that ability to be able to just rent something and then copy it off. You couldn't. You could probably get like 3 or 4 movies on a VHS tape too.
Yeah, especially if you did the super long play. Yeah, you
right.
Could, even though the quality would suffer, but you could.
Well, we didn't know quality back then. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at that stuff now and you're like, how the hell did I even watch TV?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
You know, but
with the tracking difficulties and all that,
yeah. One day our kids would be like 4K. We're nuts. I just close my eyes, click my head twice, and I got a channel.
But this is the first collaboration between John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. This is the first of many that they've done. A very fruitful collaboration, I have to say.
That's not entirely true.
Wait a second. You're right. The Elvis movie, right?
The Elvis movie, because the studio did not want Kurt Russell for this, and he fought for him. Because
I heard that Charlie Bronson was in the running for this,
and he thought he was too old. He didn't want him, which would have been a completely different movie, by the way. But Kurt Russell grew up, I think, from like 13 on. He was like synonymous with those Disney movies, you know, the computer with the computer with sneakers or shoes.
Or the World's Strongest Man or stuff like all those.
Yeah, he was very Disney-fied, and so he was looking to change his image. Definitely. And I think he did it. He's gone on record that this is his favorite character that he has played ever.
Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
One of the greatest uses of alliteration in a movie character ever. And Lee Van Cleef just loves saying that name.
That's not funny, Pliskin.
Come on, Pliskin. Pliskin.
I heard you were dead.
Yeah, how many people say that? I heard you were dead.
I didn't
Every
count,
character.
But, yes, correct. It was a running joke, right? It was a running joke. So I was watching some of the behind the scenes. There's a couple documentaries. And I guess at one point you said Charlie Bronson, but I guess Clint Eastwood was also considered for this role. And that's exactly how Kurt Russell played him. If you listen to him, he's doing a straight up Clint Eastwood impersonation.
Yeah, I can kind of get that. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, because they really kind of refer to it as a dystopian Western. They see him more as like this lone cowboy kind of a thing. He's the only one with any kind of sense of morals, except for the fact that he doesn't give it. He just wants to, he just wants to be left alone. So, go to all those old spaghetti Westerns. And that's where, what's his name? Lee Van Cleef kind of came from, is all those.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah,
definitely from that Eastwood realm.
So, but yeah, you have a late 70s smorgasbord of actors going on here with Harry Dean Stanton and Ernest Borgnine, Adrienne Barbeau,
of course,
Isaac Hayes, and then you had Donald Pleasance as the president of the United States, who really, I think it's funny because if you watch his performance, it's pretty clever, some of the stuff that he does.
I guess an English president of the United States.
Right, exactly. And I guess he created a whole backstory as to how he became president, and Carpenter was just like, we don't care. You're president. Just go with it.
But what's funny about this is like watching this, the correlation that it has with actual events today. Manhattan is completely walled off. They built the wall around Manhattan, though. And
it wasn't Mexico. Well, it took place in 97. Right? Takes place in 1997.
And Air Force One is hijacked by terrorists or liberals, and they crash purposefully into Manhattan to teach the president a lesson, who escapes in his pod,
his little Mork from Mork pod. And
he gives no indication that he cares about the lives of anybody else on Air Force One. He's just like, get me in the pod. All right. Good luck.
Yeah. You've served me well. Thank you very much. Well, there's a MacGuffin going on here, which is he has a tape. He's on his way to a summit between Russia and China, who even back then were the bad guys, and we were going to end this whatever standoff war that was looming. And whatever was on this tape was going to
end the war.
Right, bring peace to all.
And he's got this tape in a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist as he gets in the escape pod and jettisons out. And Lee Van Cleef and his extrication team of police officers outside Manhattan get in there within minutes, and they're already too late. The president has been taken. And
they present that crazy guy. Romero. I don't know who the actor is, but he was like straight up out of, I guess, what most people probably considered New York to be, just crazy people. He had the nutty hair up to the
right.
heavens. Yeah, and he presents him with the president's finger. He's like, look what we got. Back
And
off.
so, of course, they say if you don't leave right now, we're going to kill him. So Lee Van Cleef is forced to leave and enlist Snake Plissken for help in getting the president out of New York. And Snake is already sentenced to be sent into Manhattan because he was arrested for robbing the federal depository.
Now, did you watch they filmed that, and you can see that scene on the special edition.
Carpenter thought that it just slowed down the beginning.
Yeah, it did. There's a whole like train sequence or whatever, and he's got a partner who gets gunned down. It doesn't really add anything. The minute you meet Snake, you just realize that he's a badass.
And remember, once you're inside, you're on your own.
Oh, you mean I can't count on you?
No.
Good.
So I don't think it took away or added anything. So it probably was a good cut.
Now it's explained a little bit by Lee Van Cleef that some of the denizens of New York, some of the prisoners have set up some kind of greenhouse, solar-powered lighting. So they said they do have some power and street lamps, but by and by they don't have any power. I guess they don't have any food, so do they eat each other? How do they survive? And
yeah, you would think if it's a prison that they would have to provide something.
They do like food drops or something and
right.
Fight it out. Yeah.
I will say that none of this, except for the opening shot on the Statue of Liberty, was actually shot in New York.
Yeah, it was filmed, from what I understand, in both St. Louis, Missouri, and East St. Louis, Illinois, which I guess was a burned out part of town in East St. Louis that they used.
How convenient. They needed like this post-apocalyptic burnt out city blocks, and they found like 7 or 8 blocks of this city that were burned by a fire and just left. So they actually shipped in more garbage to make it look even more run down. So outside of that one shot, and I guess that they were the first to actually film on Liberty Island.
Liberty Island, yeah.
Which I find bizarre. I guess a year later, was it 82 when Splash came out?
84.
84.
Yeah.
Okay. They built 3 miniature models of the city in that whole opening sequence where he's flying in on, they put him in the glider and he's going over the cityscape. And you've got that computer graphic of the city, the visual of him kind of coming in from the command central. Like, computer graphics didn't even exist. They were so expensive back then. They could never have afforded. They made this whole movie for like $5 to $7 million. So what they did is they took those models and they actually wrapped them in reflective tape, and then they filmed it in the dark. So that's where you get that grid effect.
Okay.
So it was all practical. There was nothing computer graphic about it. It was pretty impressive when you realize that.
Yeah, it looked like an arcade game to me.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that was, back then, 80, 81, that's, the whole Pac-Man / Atari look, that 8-bit graphic.
So another fun fact is that this was co-written by Nick Castle, who played Mike Myers in the original Halloween.
That I find bizarre. I did hear them say that he was the Shape. That was pretty crazy. Well, so Carpenter wrote this, and I guess he had it in his trunk of his car since like 74. And every studio he went to, nobody wanted to touch it until was it Assault on Precinct 13, where he kind of got some creds, and they wanted
Dark Star as well, I think.
Oh, Dark Star, yep, Dark Star. But then they wanted him to make another. I'm going to draw a blank on what movie they wanted him to direct, and he in turn said, "Well, I've got this. Let's make this." And so they did. They threw some money at him, and I mean, even to the point where like when Snake comes on the scene with the downed Air Force One. Like they found like this graveyard of airplanes.
I was going to say, was that also in East St. Louis, just a plane that was...
They did. No, it's just laying there. They brought it in. They snuck it in. They had no permits or anything. This is like guerrilla filmmaking back in this day. They dragged this thing through the city, dismantled it, put it on fire, filmed it, and then got it out of there before any authorities came.
And get this, the ending scene on the 69th Street Bridge was actually a bridge that they did find in East St. Louis. The filmmakers bought the bridge for $1 just so the city wouldn't be liable for anything that happened to anybody during filming, and then sold it back to the city for $1 after they finished.
That's great. Out of control.
So let's talk about some of the supporting players here that Snake meets when he gets behind the wall into Manhattan. Of course, we've got Cabby.
Cabby,
played by
Ernest
Ernest Borgnine.
It was pretty well established by that time.
Yep, a happy-go-lucky character that you know is not going to make it to the end of the movie as soon as you meet him. And he's got that classic line as he, first he meets him while they're watching that strange Broadway style review,
right?
That Kurt kind of stumbles into, and then he saves the day in his cab when he's being chased when Snake is being chased down the alley, and he says,
"Bad neighborhood, Snake. You don't want to be walking from the Bowery to 42nd Street at night. I've been driving a cab here for 30 years, and I'm telling you, you don't walk around here at night.
You shouldn't be out here at night." I'm like, when should he be out there?
Right.
This is like a prison city. Is it ever safe for him to be out there?
You wonder what it was like in the daytime. Though.
Yeah. So then we've got the Brain, played by Harry Dean Stanton, who knows where the president is because he's got it in with the Duke.
The Duke.
And we're not talking the Duke boys. We're not talking Uncle Jesse and Boss Hogg.
I'm the Duke boy. You'll be coming by here just any moment now. I can feel it in my bones. I just can't wait to get.
We're talking Chef from South Park, Isaac Hayes, and of course,
Salty Bowls.
The Brain has at his disposal Adrienne Barbeau.
Her name was Maggie.
In this film, I think her main function is to provide the cleavage of.
Yeah, well, you need some lady parts in there somewhere because there's a lot of mans going on. So she was a prisoner as well. So what did she do to deserve to be?
Yeah, who knows? But you do see women in here intermittently every now and then.
One of them being Kurt Russell's wife.
Oh, was she the one in the Chock full of nuts? Or
yes, that is her. Yep.
Okay.
I can't remember her name. She's got a weird name.
But obviously pre Goldie Hawn.
Well, they met on Swing Shift.
Oh, it's Swing Shift. It's like it's called the Ghost Island, like Swing Shift.
Sorry, obscure movie, but there you go. It's a gritty movie. It is one of the first movies where they actually use Steadicam. That was like pretty new. So like when he's skulking through the city, because a lot of this all takes place at night. The entire movie takes place at night.
Over the course of one night, like into the morning. Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of darkness going on. He's in and out of alleyways. And it really was one of the first movies where they were able to follow your protagonist through, he's going through alleyways and he's going through doorways or whatever, as well as there was a new camera system that allowed to really kind of shoot at night and accentuate, open up the backgrounds for a little more color. For me, was probably one of the first real post-apocalyptic movies that I remember outside of Death Race 2000. I don't remember the fight sequence at all where they capture him and they make him fight the guy in the wrestling ring who was, what was that guy? Ox Baker. Any relation, Jim?
No relation.
No relation? You could lie.
Not that I know of, no.
No Uncle Ox in your background? Like you think you know these movies and then you watch them again, you're like, oh, wow, I don't remember that.
Yeah, but this movie really holds up. Just the whole countdown factor that you're in a constant level of suspense because Kurt Russell not only has to find the president within 24 hours before the summit thing is over, but they've also injected some lethal mini explosives into his arteries. He can only be saved if they give him the antidote within 24 hours. So he's got a countdown on his wrist throughout this whole thing.
I always wondered maybe they were lying to him.
And the fact that he's tracking the president and like about halfway through he realizes that just some bum prisoner has taken the president's
the first thing they did was they took it off.
Wearing it. So now he's got to start the search from scratch all over again. So, and I love the scene where you finally catch up with where the president is, the audience, I mean, and you see him in Duke's lair, and Duke is saying to him,
"What did I teach you? I can't hear you."
"You are the Duke of New York. You're a number one."
And he's like shackled to the wall.
Being shot at target practice style.
Yeah, at one point they put a wig on him.
Yes.
I guess that was Donald Pleasant's idea too.
To put really the wig on? It was like,
to just humiliate and emasculate the president.
Like an Edgar Winter, albino white wig.
There you go. Well, that's a funny thing at the beginning when Houck first brings in Snake Plissken, and he says,
"About an hour ago, a small jet went down inside New York City. The president was on board."
"President of what?"
The president went down. He goes, "President of what?"
"President of what?"
He's like, you don't think of it. President of what? And you can't talk about this movie without the score because it is quintessential.
Again, John Carpenter, another great score.
Right, and Carpenter wrote this. That's crazy. Yeah, he scored it as well.
Yeah, and you got to love, you can't talk about a John Carpenter early 80s movie without talking about those white on black opening titles. The Thing has it, but you know you're in for a Carpenter movie when you see those white titles and you hear that electronic score start up.
Yeah, and he had just come off Halloween, so that's really where I think he got a lot of his creds from this.
Right. And then he had made with the success of Halloween, he made a 2-picture deal. I think it's Atco or whatever the company that made this. So he made this for them, and he made The Fog. So that pair of movies. And speaking of pair, Adrienne Barbeau is in The Fog as well.
She is indeed. Well, you brought it up last week. They were married.
They were, yes. I don't know if it was they working together on The Fog or if that's what did it.
The Fog was 80, right? Yeah. So that was pre, right? Mm-hmm. So there is another Halloween tie-in with this.
And what's that?
An uncredited role. Jamie Lee Curtis did the opening narration and the computer voice.
Really? No idea.
Yeah, didn't catch that at all.
Let's see. The city models were reused for Blade Runner.
Cool. Recycle.
Yeah, why not? I mean, who knows? I mean, those artists probably took months building those things together. And have either of you ever seen the movie called Lockout? It's a more recent movie with Guy Pearce. It's actually a really fun movie if you've not seen it.
No, I have not.
Okay, but basically he's a bad guy on his way to jail, and the president's daughter gets trapped on some space colony, which is, she's a reporter or whatever, and there's an outbreak. The prisoners all riot, and he has to go and rescue her. They actually, John Carpenter sued and won for plagiarism.
Wow.
It was just a straight up ripoff of this movie.
Now, has anybody seen the sequel to this?
I remember seeing it way back when it first, because it didn't come out until years later, like 96 or something, right? Because it was a fair amount after the fact. I don't remember, except for that. I remember one scene where he's surfing, and it was just like off-putting to me. I was like,
yeah, that's the only scene I remember as well.
Okay,
that's
there you
all
go.
I remember from that movie.
Yeah. So I think it was an absolute copy of this. They didn't do anything original. It was just set in LA as opposed to New York. I find it weird that the movie poster has the Statue of Liberty like all in ruins. I guess they figured that's the only way to convey a ruined society. Well, it worked for Planet of the Apes, so why not put it in this poster?
It did. It was very Planet of the Apes-esque, that visual. And then I read that J.J. Abrams took that visual directly
for Cloverfield. So, well, I mean, it is, very iconic visual, especially if you want to convey that New York is in ruins. What else?
But it just gives credence to the theory, or the fact, I should say, that a lot of posters really back in the day misrepresented what was in the actual movie.
Yeah, let's go down that Masters of the Universe poster. Yeah. Hold on, there was one more. Oh, so you had mentioned that there was a connection between these two movies. We had just spoken about Alita.
Yes. Yeah. Jeff, bring this out, please, this connection. Because
do you know?
Your idea to pair these two flicks together.
Well, apparently, James Cameron painted some of the matte paintings in the background. He was working as an artist back in the day.
Yep, and he is credited as one of the directors of photography in the closing credits of Escape from New York.
Huh, so there you go.
Alita could practically be a sequel.
There you go.
And then, of course, we also have the connection that Robert Rodriguez cites this as one of his early influences.
That was the main tie-in when we first started talking about Alita. Was that this movie? He walked out of the theater. I think he was like 12 years old when this movie came out, and he was like, "I can do that." So yeah, this was it's a fun movie.
It is. It was an absolute joy.
It's been a while. If it's been a while since you've seen this movie, definitely go back and rewatch it because it is just fun. He eats up the scenery as this character. You can't go wrong.
So buckets wise, what do we think? I'm going to give this solid 4 buckets, maybe 4 1/4. I'll go.
It's exactly where I was going. 4 1/4.
It's unanimous.
There you go. We're all in sync this week.
Yes, we are.
Do you know that just in looking up this dystopian future, is it a genre? I guess it's a genre.
It could be. I think it could be considered one.
You had Running Man, Blade Runner, and Akira all taking place in 2019, which is now.
Ooh.
Not so dystopic out there right now, but you never know.
So that leads us to our confessional this week, right?
Confessionals.
Yeah, it is indeed.
What is your favorite dystopian future?
I hope I didn't just ruin it by listing one of yours.
No, you did not.
Okay. Okay, there you go. So I just added 3 more. Because there's a lot of them out there.
There certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, some much better than others. So who's going first? Mike?
It's almost a tie for me. So I'm going to have to pick one. Or should I say, nope, I'm going with it. Planet of the Apes.
There you go.
Nice one.
And I'll tell you at the end what the other one was.
Okay. Now, but why is that one? Is it just because the apes win? Because human society as a whole in that movie is gone. They're done.
Yeah, it deservedly so, I feel. Right, after enslaving the ape, humanity got what they deserve. So I'm perfectly okay with that. But then you kind of get this.
You're okay with the fact that we had our time?
We deserve extinction. Okay. But there is this hope in the kind of old school where the apes and humanity, what remains of humanity, can get together and live a more peaceful life. So it's both deserved and hopeful at the same time.
Ooh, that's very heartwarming.
You see, I would like to go more obscure with this one. My first thought would be the world of the Romero zombies, Dawn of the Dead, but I'd name that as my answer for last week's confessional, I think, or the week before. So I can't go to the well too many times on that. So I'm going to go to 1975, I believe, and A Boy and His Dog.
Oh, Don Johnson.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you the premise of that movie. I do remember it being the end of the world kind of a thing.
No, it was Don Johnson and his dog. Oh, what is the dog's name? I don't remember what the dog's name in the movie was.
Tubbs. It was Tubbs.
Speak telepathically. The whole world, it's like a road warrior, post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war kind of world. And mostly it's just men, and they're all searching for women to pillage. Don Johnson has this dog that he speaks with telepathically, and in exchange for keeping the dog alive, feeding the dog, and having a companion, the dog sniffs out women for Don Johnson. So that's the setup of the movie, but there's an underground society that exists that captures Don Johnson by sending out a girl as bait. What they want to do, because all the men underground are sterile, they can't repopulate. So they take Don Johnson for his semen, basically. Thing. So he thinks that he's got it made once they inform him. It's Jason Robards, who's the leader of this underground community.
Holy crap.
And he informs him that they want him for his reproductive abilities. And Don Johnson is like, well, bring him on. And then they knock him out, and then he wakes up and he's tied to this machine, which is like a that's just pumping him and pumping him. Until he finally escapes back to the world that he knows.
That's no fun at all. Now, did the dog talk to him in the human voice?
The dog talks to him in the human voice. And it's actually the dog from the Brady Bunch. That's the dog that they use.
Tiger?
Tiger, yeah. Playing blood in this movie. And it's a great movie. It's got a great twist ending, and I've always loved it.
We have to watch this now, because that is, I've heard of it and I know of it. I can honestly say I've never seen it. And that's pretty heady to get past. That's a bizarre.
It is. So what do you got?
Well, Well, my favorite dystopian story is 1984. I read it in 1984 as a junior in high school. The only reason he chose 84 is because he wrote it in 48 and then just reversed. It made me go back and read all of Orwell's books, but none of the movies have lived up to the actual novel itself for me. But I'm going to go slightly different. Disney movie, Wall-E. Wall-E.
Ooh.
Because I love the idea that we as humans just completely fall victim to consumerism. Humans we lost our zest for life, and we just come to being fat, lazy, and completely spineless. And they just are, we just littered the planet, and now we leave. But it has like this kind of, most dystopian movies have this cynical outlook. Humans, that's it, we're done. We screwed up, and now someone else has taken our place. And in this one, you actually have the promise of a new beginning with life returning to the planet. And at the end of the movie, you kind of see in the credits that humans come back and reclaim who and what we are.
Over a great Peter Gabriel song, I might add.
Yes. But that's where I went. I went a little. I was leaning toward Death Race 2000, but I've brought that up a couple times. Like you said, you can only go back to the well so many times. Mm-hmm. So I like to think that there's hope for us as a society eventually. Even if we screw up, that somehow we're able to rectify it.
You see, that's why I love these confessionals. It just gives us ideas for future movies that we really should be covering. I should be noting all this stuff down.
An obvious choice was Mad Max. Did anyone not think
you know what? Yeah. But it didn't really seem like I don't want to live in those society. I mean, it's a great, I don't know. I guess I just looked at it as, because you're right. Mad Max is a great example.
Like, yeah, for me, more so the Road Warrior than Mad Max.
But it's all the same. Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's, if you're going to choose one, you choose both because it is.
But just not Beyond Thunderdome. Let's leave that one alone.
Oh, if I could be with Auntie May there. Talk about cleavage.
Was that her name?
Yeah.
Auntie May?
Yeah,
Auntie,
in her chainmail dress.
It wasn't Auntie May. It was Auntie. It was something. Oh, Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? Master Blaster. So there you go.
So next week, we are covering the whole of the Umbrella Academy.
I am so psyched.
All 10 episodes we're going to cover.
Watch this.
I'm going to say right now, right, if you have not checked this out, do yourself a favor. Call in sick tomorrow. Call in sick Tuesday and just binge this. This is probably the best thing that Netflix has released in ever.
I'm watching it thinking I don't want it to end. It's like I'm almost rationing out the episodes to myself.
Rightfully so, because it is so well done and the characters are so... I wouldn't necessarily say likable, but you're invested. You're absolutely invested. And I think that has a lot to do with the writing. It has a lot to do with the casting. Now, this is also based on a comic book, which apparently I'm the only one who actually has read, and I will be parsing out some comparisons.
I tried to order it, the graphic novels, and they are sold out everywhere.
Really? So this coming out, well, the books themselves came out like 10 years ago. I'm happy it's found this audience, and I think that they've done a phenomenal job of taking the source material and turning it into something completely different. And yet at the same time, it really echoes everything that does happen in the comics on a less fantastical scale. Let's put it that way.
And with that, we are also going to revisit Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass. Apparently, our local libraries don't carry this movie.
So I'm surprised. Again, it's not in your personal collections. It is in mine. So
I have the Blu-ray, and I probably let my kids watch it way too early.
Oh,
but it is the foul mouth on Hit Girls. It's out of control. This is a hard R movie.
Definitely, and one of Nick Cage's finest hours. Let me point out.
I agree. Yep, it is. Mike, not having seen this, you're going to be tickled pink.
So you just said Hit Girl, which is different than Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass is the main character.
Kick-Ass is the main character, okay.
But Hit Girl and Big Daddy are also in this, yes.
Are supporting characters, yes.
Red Mist, yes.
So there you go. So that's what we're going to be into next week. So
tune in.
Sounds good to you. Please come back. Join us.
I'll be back. Are you going to come back?
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Unlike Alita, who will not be back.
Yeah, no.
It may take 20 years to make a sequel, the way James Cameron's working here.
There'll be an Alita land suddenly, which nobody wants or has asked for.
Maybe Disney will create some kind of a ride with that really cool motorcycle.
Well, they're doing that with Tron, so I think that's already.
Who, Disney?
Yeah, you didn't know that? They're
doing
coming out with a Tron Lightcycle ride right next to Space Mountain.
Only like 80 years later.
I know.
That would have been cool when I was like 12.
Oh, come on, Jeff. You're going to be loving it anyway.
I know, but it just seems like Tron Legacy came out and I was super excited, and it really didn't do much to reinvigorate the franchise. So I'm surprised that they're choosing. Oh, okay. All right. I did not know that.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, come on.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's not funny, Pliskin.
Call me Snake.
We'd make one hell of a team, Snake.
The name's Pliskin.
You can do it!